Can you do it without burning? Ah! I almost burnt my finger. It's not a video unless we have a candle going. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are doing a reading wrap up today for the month of February. I just want to start by prefacing that this was not a great reading month for me. I didn't read as much as I wanted to. I started a lot of books that I didn't finish. Overall, I only read 4 books. In saying that, I did get some books off my TBR that had been on there for a while, and I did stick to a few of the books that were on my TBR from last month. So if you want to watch that video, that will be up on the screen as well. But without further ado, let's get into all the books I read in February. And isn't that wild that it's March already? Like, where is this year going? I genuinely am scared for how fast time goes, and we're already in March. We've only just entered March, actually. I don't even know if I'm ready to like deal with that. But anyway, maybe it's because I'm turning 30 this year. Maybe it's because life is short. But anyway, let's get into all the books I read. So as always, I use Fable to track all of my reads for the month, and I think it's like literally the best app I've ever found for reading. If you are a book girly but you also like things to be a little bit aesthetic and almost gamified, then I would definitely use Fable. It's not sponsored at all, obviously. That would be a dream for me, but I just absolutely love it, and I've literally recommended it to all of my friends because it's just so fun. It's almost like a social media platform for reading in a way that Goodreads could just never. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely do, and I'll link my username below and on the screen so you guys can check me out as well. As I said, for the month of February, I read 4 books. I read 3 fantasy and 1 contemporary romance. So let me go grab them and then we can go through them together. One day I'll actually be prepared for these videos, but today is not that day. I hope you guys are cozy as well. These are always my favorite kind of videos to film because I feel like we just get to be like, I don't know, it's almost like we're just like talking to each other about all the books that we love, and I absolutely love that. So if you guys have read any good books in the month of Feb, please leave them below because I always love to see what you guys are reading as well. The first book that I read in the month of February is actually one of the, dare I say, the biggest achievements in terms of my book reading ever. And I know that's a big call, but essentially this book has been on my TBR for the longest time. Like, I think this has been on my TBR. I got it for my birthday 2 years ago. I was so excited to get it because it's the second book in a series. I know I'm being super elusive, but it's the second book in a series, and there was just so much hype about it when it first came out. My loving partner got it for me for my birthday, which was so nice. And then I proceeded to not pick it up for 2 years. So that book is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. The only thing that got me to actually read this book, because if you don't know much about this book and this series, is these are chunky books. There's a lot going on in these series. They're very heavy world building. It's a high fantasy book with romance as well. So very war focused. It's basically about a military school where there are 4 different factions, and one of them happens to be a riders, or I shouldn't say factions, they're more like quadrants. So 4 quadrants, and there's a riders quadrant where they learn how to bond with and ride dragons as part of the war efforts. It's a great series. It's just a commitment to actually get into. The only reason I actually ended up picking this up again was because Iron Flame got released this month as well. And this month or last month? I feel like it was in January. Anyway, point is, that got me to read this book because the girls at work were like hyping this one up, and I was like, oh my god, I have to finish it so I can start Onyx Storm with everybody together. And I haven't picked up Onyx Storm yet either. That was on my February TBR, and I just didn't get to it, unfortunately. So anyway, I'm really proud of myself for finishing this because it's literally like 650 pages worth of book, and I did really, really enjoy it. So I ended up giving it 4 stars out of 5, and my main comment was, I am unwell. And I think that like perfectly sums up this book because so much happens, especially in the last little bit of the book. I'm kind of in 2 minds because I really don't enjoy when you get through a whole book and it's only really like super gripping towards the end. This just tied everything together so well, and I do feel like, yes, it could have been shorter. I was just enjoying the reading process. Like, it wasn't one of those books that I just wanted to finish. Like, I actually was just enjoying reading it, and I feel like I'm going to feel the same about Onyx Storm as well. So I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. I said slow start, but a really strong finish. So yeah, if you still haven't picked up Iron Flame, I definitely recommend doing it because it's just so good. The next book, and this makes a lot of sense after finishing a high stakes fantasy, I had to obviously pick up a silly little romance, but if you've read anything by Abby Jimenez, you'll know this is not just a silly little romance. This is actually quite traumatizing and very heartbreaking and will probably make you cry, as all of her books do, but in the best way possible. So this is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. It's the third book in an interconnected standalone series that she has. The first two books being Part of Your World and Yours Truly. And then this one focuses specifically on Justin and Emma, who both happen to have a curse that the people they tend to date will end up finding the love of their lives after they've dated them. So they make a pact together, why don't we date each other, then the next person we find will be the love of our lives. So it all sounds perfect until they start to realize that they actually really like each other, and the story goes on from there. I will say with Abby Jimenez's books, she tends to write about a romance, but that is not like the underlying plot of the book. Like, it's definitely a plot in the book. I would say her books mainly focus on some kind of mental health issue or family trauma, past trauma. There's always an underlying current of something that the main protagonist has to get through in order for her to accept the love that she deserves from the love interest in the book. Because all of the book boyfriends are absolutely beautiful. Like, none of them are awful. They're just like the perfect book boyfriends, but it's always that the main character has something they have to work through in order to fully show up in that relationship. Or on the other side, the male protagonist has something they need to work through that sets them up to be able to show up in the relationship better as well. They're not just fluffy little romances, they actually have a lot of heart to them. And I think if you are someone who wants to get into romance, she is a really good author to start with, because it's not just like silly and fluffy, like it actually has a lot of depth to it, and you will probably cry. If that's not a selling point, I don't know what is. Oh, I should say I did give this one 4 stars as well. Out of the 3, it wasn't my favorite. I still loved it, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like that 5-star feeling, whereas the other 2, the first 2 in the series, were like 5-star feelings for me. Like, I recommend them over and over. I would go back and read them again. They're just so good. But she is releasing another book shortly, and I'm so excited for it to come out. I think it's called Say You'll Remember Me. Yeah, it's called Say You'll Remember Me, and obviously that's a Taylor Swift reference, so I can't wait to read that one. I think it's going to be so good. I will literally be buying it as soon as it comes out. And then I wanted to switch it up and go back to fantasy. I've got a lot of fantasy books on my TBR at the moment, and if you want to know more about my physical TBR, I actually did a whole video on all the books of my physical TBR, which is like way too many books, to be honest. Like, it's actually a bit concerning. But if you want to see that video, I'll link that here as well, because it was such a fun video to film, and it really put it into perspective for me how many books I have, and maybe that I shouldn't be buying them in the speed that I'm currently buying them. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bit of a reality check, if you will. The next book that I read was another fantasy. It is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. So this is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. The first book is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig as well, obviously. It is such a good duology. I really enjoyed how this series is only 2 books. Both books are only about 400 pages. I feel like sometimes I get a little bit frustrated with fantasies when they're like literally 600 pages long, and you find out at the end of the book they're going to be a series of like 5 or 6 books, and it's like, while that's great, unless the series is really compelling, that is a lot of time commitment into one series, and your girl is just a normal girl. Like, I don't have time to be reading, 200 books a year. That's just not a reality for me. Like, I'm maybe 50 books a year at most. It's a lot to commit to. So I really enjoyed this one because it was only 2 books. I feel like I sped through them. The magic system is so fun, and like, not fun in like a fun, happy way, but like fun in like a dark gothic, this is so interesting, I've not seen this done before kind of way. It's definitely a super unique magic system. It's not focused so much on the romance aspect, even though that is part of it. I would say this book is more focused on the fantasy, dark, gothic elements of the book. So I really enjoyed this one as well. I'm the queen of 4 stars this month. I gave this one 4 stars as well, and I feel like it was really good. It just wasn't that 5-star feeling that I was hoping for. So yeah, do enjoy though. If you're looking for another fantasy book, you might want to pick up this series, because I feel like it's a good gateway into fantasy if you're not wanting to commit to thousands and thousands of pages of books. And the last book I read in the month of Feb was another fantasy, but a little bit different this time. This one's more centered around Greek mythology, and that is The Games Gods Play. I originally saw this book from the girl who runs, this is very niche, but it's the girl who runs the HQ Books TikTok, and she was recommending this one, and her main recommendation was that this book stars Hades, and Hades is obviously the god of the underworld, and that's all you really need, to be honest. Like, it is essentially a Greek mythology retelling crossed with like the Hunger Games. So there's these trials that these gods get their tributes who are human to volunteer to and compete in. There's about 12 trials, and essentially whoever wins the trial, their respective god ends up being king of the gods. So it's kind of like a mutually beneficial thing. The person who's volunteering to do the trial, so like the human, ends up getting like eternal gratitude from the gods and like wealth and fame and those kinds of things. So it's a bit of an interesting concept. I did enjoy this one. I really did. I really loved the Hades kind of energy that came into this book. I think the trials were a little bit too long. They definitely felt a bit samey after a while because there's 12 trials. It was just like, okay, another one where people are almost dying and then they get through it. So like that was the only part that I was like, oh, it is a bit long in that sense. And it did feel a little bit YA towards the end there as well. I do know this is the start of a series, so I don't know if I will continue it, but I really did enjoy it for what it was, and I had a lot of fun with this book. I think if you just want like a fun fantasy that's not super high stakes, then this can be a really good option for you. I gave this one 3 stars, so a little bit better than average, but not a 4 or 5 star feeling at all. I just think it's a bit of fun, and I'm really into like the Greek mythology Hades retellings now. I've just started A Touch of Darkness, which is a Hades and Persephone retelling. So if you've read that one, let me know. I know it's a bit of a different genre. It's a little bit more spicy than this one is, but I am very excited to read that one as well. So it was a fun read. Okay, so let's talk about my March TBR, because I think I need to do it a little bit differently for March. In Feb, I basically just did my standard prompts, my TBR jar prompts, which we will do for this video, but I want to show you the books that I have started reading and I haven't finished, because I feel like 4 books is not enough, and I just want it known that I did try to read more. It's just I didn't finish them. I wasn't very good at actually just like committing to one book and finishing it. I would start one and then get excited about another one and then put that one down and then start reading another one as well, and then I would just forget about the books that I originally started reading. So I thought we could go through these together. The first one is All Fours by Miranda July. This one here I actually bought because it was part of a book club book of the month. Not my friend book club, but like there's another book club that I wanted to start going to at the Gold Coast where I live, and it's basically just a group of girls that, you know, there's a book for the month and then you go get a coffee and go to the beach and talk about the books together. And this was the first one that I was like, oh, I haven't actually read that one yet, I'll buy it and then I'll go to this book club. I did not go to the book club, unfortunately. It was on a Thursday morning and I was just so busy that week that I just couldn't make it work. I hadn't finished the book and I was like, I'm just not going to go this time, but I still want to finish this book because it's a very interesting concept. I'm just going to read it to you so it makes sense, but basically it's saying part absurd entertainment, part tender reinvention of the sexual, romantic and domestic life of a 45-year-old female artist. All Fours transcends expectations while excavating our beliefs about life lived as a woman. Once again, Julie hijacks the familiar and turns it into something new and thrilling, profoundly alive. So I think it's just basically commentary on what it's like to live as a middle-aged woman and reconnecting with your desires and your sexuality, just like learning to live again after potentially falling out of a relationship. I'm only 31 pages into this one, but I do want to keep reading it. I do like the writing style, and it is quite a funny book. It's quite comedic, which I really like, and it's not super long as well. So I am reading that one. I'm going to continue it. If you guys have read it, let me know, because it's a bit out of my comfort zone. It's not something I'd usually pick up. It's very like contemporary fiction, but I am enjoying it and I'm trying to branch out this year. So the next one I'm halfway between is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I am really enjoying this one, but I will say it is quite a heavy book, and not in the way of like heavy topics, but more so in the way of like the way it's written is not like just, you know how sometimes you read a book and the words and the phrasing and how they write the book, it just like seeps into your brain and you can understand it super easily. This is not one of those books. This is a book where you're learning. Like you're learning, you're trying to interpret what they're saying, you're trying to understand the underlying message between what they're saying as well. Like it feels like literature. When I think of literature, I think of this. Like this is in the same bucket as like 1984, for example, by George Orwell, which is a great book, by the way, but it's one of those books where you really have to think about what's going on. And this one's a big book too. I'm up to page 210 out of 546, so almost halfway-ish, and I am enjoying it. I just know it's going to take me a while to read this one, but I'm hoping I can get it done in the month of March. And the last book that I'm in the middle of reading at the moment is The Wedding People by Alison Espache. I think I'm probably butchering that name, but this is very similar to All Fours kind of in the concept, but in a different way. So it's basically about a woman who goes to a hotel, and you do find this out within the first chapter, so this is not really a spoiler. She goes to a hotel with the sole purpose of And I feel like that should have been a trigger warning at the start of the book, but it doesn't bleed into much of the rest of the book, I will say. Like, it is a bit confronting at the start, but then I don't feel like the rest of the book is as confronting. But essentially, when she gets to this hotel and she makes a plan, she realizes that the entire hotel is booked out by a wedding party. The bride is telling her, you have to stay alive because it's my wedding. And she doesn't know this bride, but she doesn't want to disappoint the bride, essentially. The story kind of goes on from there, but it is really good so far. I'm about halfway through this one as well, and I am enjoying it, so I am excited. This is actually my friendship book club book of the month. I am the only one who hasn't finished reading it, so I really need to get a hustle on with this one, but I am enjoying it. With that in mind, there's obviously 3 books that I do want to finish this month, and I'm halfway between all of them. So I think I will do 3 TBR prompts. I don't want to overwhelm myself with the prompts because I tend not to get through them if I do too many of them, and I like to have some choice and like mood read a little bit as well. So let's pick the first prompt. A book with a great first sentence. Second prompt. A book that explores a social/political issue. I did not want this prompt. A book with over 500 pages. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, I literally don't have a single book that fits into a book about a social or political issue, so we're gonna draw again for that one. A book that matches the current season. I had that one last month. Okay, I'm really not doing well at this one, but let's do last one. A book you think you'll rate 5 stars. Okay, this is a good one, actually. So, BRB. I'm actually so excited about these books. A book with a great first sentence. I'm actually going to go with another book that I have started, but I forgot that I started it. But it does have a good great first sentence. A good great first sentence. It has a great first sentence, and that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I'm about 76 pages into this one. It is essentially a thriller mystery. Someone goes missing / is murdered, and we have to figure out why. It's like a camp counselor situation. It's meant to be a little bit deeper and like a bit of a character study into all of the people that are involved. So it's dual perspective, lots going on, lots of backstory. I did really enjoy it. I think I just wasn't, it was like right book, wrong time in a way. So I'm excited to pick this up and actually finish it because I have heard really good things about it. So I'm excited. If you guys have read this, let me know. The next one is a book that is over 500 pages, and I obviously have to pick up Onyx Storm. I feel like it's time. I really want to get back into this one before I forget what happened in Iron Flame. This one has 527 pages, so just over the cap, which is great. I don't really have much to say about this. I feel like everyone and their dog, every man and their dog has heard about this book, so very keen to read that one. And the last book is a book that I think I'm going to give 5 stars, and this is like my newest addition to my collection. I'm so happy I found it. It is the most stunning copy of the Songbird and the Heart of Stone, and look at that sprayed edge. I don't have any other books with like full sprayed edges like this, and it's literally beautiful. This is the 3rd book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. It's talking about Misha's story, which is a character from the 1st and the 2nd book. I didn't love the 2nd book, but then there was a little novella that was kind of in between, and I absolutely loved that. That was a 5 star, and I started reading this on my Kindle, but then when I saw the physical copy and how beautiful it is, and it's a hardback as well, I obviously had to buy it. So it's just beautiful, and I can't wait, and I definitely feel like this is going to be a 5 star. So this is my TBR for the month of March. I'm very excited to finish off these books that I've been reading, and then these new books that I've added to it as well. I feel like they're all quite big books, and I'm a bit concerned about that, but I think I'm going to film a video where I do like a 24-hour readathon, and I just try to smash out a bunch of books that I've already started reading. So if you guys want to see that, let me know. But thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you guys enjoy, and I can't wait to see you for the next reading wrap up next month. Have a lovely day, guys. Bye!